So next, we are moving to the next section, who is conducted by Araminta George. She is going to take a session about the CPD on the partnership working in the social work setting in UK. Over to you, Araminta. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheena. So if you could just help by just putting up the presentation for me. So while Sheena does that, so welcome to the second session on effective partnership working in social work. So this will be specifically focusing on working with service users and families. I thought this would be an important topic to touch base on, because this is what we will be expected to do in our role day in and day out to achieve those positive outcomes for the diverse group of people we work with. So the session will aim to help us to sort of rethink and re-examine how we approach our work with service users and families. So the session will be more interactive, so there will be group discussions and things like that along the way, and hopefully you all can take something positive away from the session. So Sheena's just going to try and put up the presentation for us. Brilliant. Hold on a second.
Is it visible for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Sheena, yeah, just go on to the next slide, please, if that's okay.
Yep.
The second one.
Please let me know if it is not visible or audible to anybody, okay?
If you could move on to the second slide, Sheena, and we'll get started off. Just put it on slideshow, maybe a lot easier, yeah. So just to start off this session, just a bit of an icebreaker for you all and to get you all talking. I'm quite interested to know what comes to your mind when you think of effective partnership working. So there's no right or wrong here, it's just based on your perception. So use the chat box or perhaps raise your hand and then maybe share your ideas. Then we can discuss that together as a group. So I'll give like 10 seconds for you all. Hopefully, if you could just put it in the chat box, any ideas or any words that come to your mind when you think of effective partnership working, and we'll monitor that. Yeah, so we've got one, so collaboration with all stakeholders and sharing information, absolutely. Any more? Any more ideas? Yeah, it can be. It can be that you're working collaboratively in safeguarding setting as well. Mutual respect, absolutely. That's a part of it. Anyone else? I see we have a few more people joining us for the session, so I'll give you guys another 10 seconds just to see if there's anything else. Partnership working, definitely. Working together with all MDT for the well-being of the client, absolutely, yeah. It's all about that working together attitude. Give 5 more seconds. Oh, to create change in clients, consider suggestion with clients and their family members. Yes, absolutely. So it's about seeking the family members or the clients' wishes and views as you work alongside with them, absolutely. So Sheena, if you could just, OT, district nurses, absolutely. So collaborative working with other professionals, yeah. So these are some of the things that I've sort of come up with as well. I hope you can all read that. So it's about engaging with people. We said participation, involvement, working together. I think there's a few more. It's going to about pop up. So yeah, seeking people's wishes and views, people's voices being heard. Yeah. So that's all right, Sheena. We'll move on to the next slide anyway. So if we look at partnership working in the context of our roles within social work, so partnership working refers to the need for social workers or professionals to work alongside service users and carers, engaging them as partners. So in, for example, jointly planning services, jointly assessing situations and negotiating the delivery of services. Researchers also say it's about sharing, respect for one another, role divisions, rights to information, accountability, competence, and also having something to contribute from both parties and the power being shared equally, decisions being made jointly, and roles also backed by legal and moral rights. So if you could move on to the next slide, Sheena, for me. So don't worry about writing all of this down, and I'm sure we can email out a copy of these slides to you all. Okay, so, oh, sorry to interrupt. That's all right. So as outlined, what is that? Sorry, Sheena?
Sorry, there is a black bar in the screen, so we can't read the words in the last parts.
I see.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. It's good you brought that to our attention. Thank you. Let's have a look what is going on. Is there any way we could move that, Sheena, that bar? Is that just sticking out there?
Is it all right now?
Yeah, that's it. You've dragged it down.
Oh, okay.
Can everyone see that now?
Yeah, fine. Thank you.
Oh, good. No, thank you. All right. So as outlined on the slides, there's a lot of reasons to why partnership working is important. So such as it's a way of being person-centered as well as anti-oppressive, which is very key to our work as social workers. It's a way of empowering service users to become actively involved. It allows us to see the individual as the expert. So that is really important because they're the ones who have the lived experience. A majority of the time, they have a better understanding of how their condition or situation is having an impact on them. So as professionals, it takes us away from imposing our views of and ways of doing things for clients. So allows us to do things with people as opposed to for them, which is significant because it's all about that equalizing and balancing out that power and equally giving the service user the power in decisions around care and support. So I've listed a little bit more about the benefits, so you can have a read through in your own time, but that is just to summarize sort of the importance of partnership working. So if we could go on to the next slide. Thank you, Sheena. Brilliant. So in our practice, we do see how families and informal carers act as a significant resource to the individual by providing care and support. So where possible, we need to work with them to also support with sustaining their role, alleviating, for example, the risk of carer breakdowns. So there are a few benefits to why it is essential to work broadly with families and all carers. So it values the part they play in providing care and support, and it acknowledges the skills and expertise which they've developed through their own experience. It's inclusive and has the potential to prevent carers, families, and others from becoming segregated from the community and social networks. It enables us to understand, respect, and value each other's perspective. And it also enables us to make personalised and appropriate responses when we are meeting the needs of carers and clients. But also, if we think about it, it's also to do with recognising strengths and resilience in people's families, carers, and the communities in which they live. Thank you, Sheila. Next slide. So we do have a video on sort of I thought it would just be useful for us to have a look at. It's about examining the significance of being involved, not from a professional's point of view, but from the service user's point of view. So Sheena, do you have that up for us? That's okay.
Yes, please bear with me. I need to.
No worries, thank you.
I need to stop sharing this particular slide in order to get
Yeah.
that thing.
Yeah. So only just be a couple of minutes long, okay? Not too long, I promise.
Sorry, I'm just.
No, you don't worry, Sheena, just take your time.
Is this my screen is visible to you?
Yeah, I can see that. Can everyone else see that? You just say yes.
Is everybody just give me a thumbs up if they are able to see it? Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, everybody can see.
brilliant.
Right.
Where does this name come from? Essex. If it's coming from within and coming from your own initiative, then there's more ownership, there will be more drive, more passion, generally, in terms of service improvement.
I left Henderson and went to a day centre called the Leatherhead Clubhouse. It's sort of like work orderated day, and I really wanted to give something back, so I started to do user involvement. And it was my own recovery, really. I used user involvement, and then I did the leadership training course.
When you meet with other people, you're hearing other people's stories, so you recognise some experiences which are common to you as well. But also you find yourself in a forum or a space where you want to speak out or you feel safe to speak out, and you realise that you're not alone in this experience.
Well, service users' experiences are useful in that they are frontline, first-hand experience of what it is like. It's quite difficult to judge how the service user voice is actually heard and impacted upon, you know, whether we have any impact in fact. Although, you know, we can shout and shout, but are they listening? That's the question. You know, the main charities like Together, Rethink and Mind all need to be upfront in their campaigning to fight for people's liberty and freedom, and to be counted and heard and not just to be labelled.
I grew up in the system, I grew up in care, and it let me down, you know, and that's how I look at it. So for my own personal thing, it took me a long time.
She had loads of trouble even getting interviews because
People who've gone through the system, you know, like myself, can help people to sort of like to move on, show them different ways of working.
I met other service users and was hearing their stories and experiences of what they'd gone through with the mental health services or the National Health Service. I'd recognise things. I think that happened to me.
there was a girl and she didn't speak, she wrote, because she had a breakdown and she was so frightened she couldn't even speak, and she was such a lovely girl. And I remember thinking that was me like 6 months ago. And I went and sat with her and I talked to her, and I knew she wouldn't talk back to me, but she just smiled, and I just said, I was like you 6 months ago and I never thought I'd come out of it. And look at me now, I'm like, I know I'm a bit gobby and I'm from Barnsley, but I'm back to my old self, I'm bubbly again. And I just look at you and it's like looking in a mirror 6 months ago.
When I attend the groups, I do have a sense of belonging, but what is more important is the force that's behind it, because it's not just me saying
something that needs doing. It's a whole group saying, look, you've got to change.
Thanks, Vicky.
Finding out ways in which services are provided and can be improved, like today's meeting is all about quality assurance. So there's always something new to, it seems there's always something new to learn.
You know, everyone's sort of like coming from the same playing field. It's equal. You know, everyone's got a mental health problem, a different one, but everyone knows that.
Well, we've got service user-led research already, but I think...
So it's skills, and hopefully, eventually, I'd like, through voluntary work and training, I'd eventually like to move into that area of work.
It was a big step for me to go back to work. It was good to talk to professionals, to coordinate service users, to give them the training and the skills so they can have a voice in the system without shouting.
I would really like to see commissioners, policymakers recognising and supporting involvement led by people who are using the services. So providing the support and the resources for people to organise themselves and lead the way.
There's thousands of us out there, all individuals. We have, yes, we have some form of mental health issue. Doesn't make us any different to anybody else. We are still individuals. We would like to be heard.
I think it's so important for whatever services are being provided that there is not an us and them. If we're going to deliver something which is supposed to be of the worth that is implied, it's supposed to be helping service users. You have to have service users right at the centre.
The customer knows best in terms of what they need and what they want from a service, and that should be applied really within health services.
People under detention, they won't have a choice.
And my dream is that people who use services will deliver services in the future.
Forgotten dreams on your way in life, spirit unseen, broken heart, tomorrow gone, on your way in life, without your song.
Okay, I hope that video was informative and gave you an idea in relation to what clients' expectations are when working with professionals. So they don't want to be shouting, they want to be listened to, and as professionals we need to take that into consideration when we work with people. Sheena, are you just trying to get up the presentation for us?
Ami, you can go through, it will come from the beginning, sorry.
No, that's all right, that's brilliant. Is it on full screen? Is everyone able to read that? Or is it a bit small? As long as you guys can read it. Okay, so there's quite a bit of legislation and policies that backs up this way of working and the importance of working this way. So there is the Human Rights Act 1998, which has an emphasis on individuals' right to participation. There's the Care Act 2014, which is a legislation that highlights the area of personalisation. So this is something I would recommend people read up on, area of personalisation. So what personalisation is that it acts as a facilitator to partnership working, and it highlights that as practitioners we should be working with service users as partners in ensuring they lead the lives they want. There's a lot of emphasis around choice and control, and recognises people as individuals, putting them at the centre of their own care and support. There's also the Mental Capacity Act 2005, which is a legislation that empowers people to make their own decisions and enables people who lack the capacity to make a decision to participate as much as possible in a decision that's being made on their behalf. So I've highlighted a list of other key policies on there. So when you do sort of receive the slides, have a look at those key policies, and I think they're very useful to be aware of. We could go on the next slide, Sheena, thank you. Okay, oh, thank you. So if we go a little bit up, the slide before, the barriers to partnership working, thank you. So in this way of working, there are barriers to engagement and partnership working. I've highlighted a few on there, but I'm keen to know, does anyone know of what are the sort of barriers to people sort of engaging or working with us? Again, you can put it in the chat box or raise your hand to share the ideas. Any ideas? I'll give you 30 seconds like before. No. Communication, yes. Communication can act as a barrier. There's also language barriers as well. So I think I've had a case recently where the individual did not speak English at all, and that in itself was a barrier for me to work with them. Capacity, yeah, absolutely. Capacity does play in them working with us, yeah. Are they oriented? Are they able to engage with us? Anything else? Difficulty with speech, yep, down to that communication again. Personal attitude, absolutely, yeah. Client's willingness, absolutely. Personal experiences. Family dilemmas, yep, family, so there can be complex family dynamics that's been going on in that individual's sort of personal life, which can contribute to acting as a barrier for them working with us, absolutely. Community, yeah. Community therein could have an influence on them. Equality and diversity, yeah. Any more? I'll give you guys the last 10 seconds. Personal interest, yeah, that can just be it. Okay, so I'll read through the ones that have come up very commonly in research that has acted as a barrier, so bear with me. So there's things like the managerial system. So interestingly, the systems and processes that we have to follow. So for example, going out to do an assessment or doing a support plan or having things being agreed by a panel can put people off from engaging and working with us. Media, I think, is probably a huge influencer in people engagement, especially in the case of social work. So there are a lot of misconceptions around social work being portrayed as a work that involves breaking families up, and that is not the case, as we know. But there are a lot of misconceptions out there. There's also personal experiences. I think someone highlighted that in the chat as well. So people's experience of using social services may have had a negative impact on them previously. There's also fear of being judged, the lack of understanding how we work or support people, and also things like mistrust of professionals. So you may have had an individual who was in care from a young age, and if their experiences weren't so great, for example, with working with professionals, then that could lead to mistrust later on. Stigma and discrimination is another one as well. So people, I think there's a lot of stigma around, for example, BME using these services, and society sort of treating them differently because of that, or the fear of society would probably treat them differently. So these are sort of the common sort of barriers I was able to pick up, but well done on the ideas that you guys have posted as well. So they are acting as a barrier to people engagement. Next slide, please, Sheena. Thank you. So working with families. So there are a couple of things that we need to be aware and mindful of when we work with families, okay? So there's things like respecting the rights of the service user in regards to information that they do not want to share with family members. So that is GDPR and the confidentiality policy. So do have a read on that around general sort of data protection, GDPR, confidentiality. So if a person has capacity, for example, and they only involve family if they want to be involved. If they do not want the family to be involved, then we need to respect that. Agree with the individual what information you'll share with their family members, and help them to communicate this to those family members. So if they've consented to family members being involved, it's always good to check if they're happy with you communicating certain information with them. Also, just avoid where possible getting involved in family conflicts or disputes. So I think that's something that's commonly happening to me anyway, whenever I pick up the phone and have conversation with my clients or the family that I'm working with. They do have a tendency to talk about their own sort of life and the sort of conflicts that's going on, but it's bringing the conversation back to the service user. Take family members' concerns seriously and be mindful not to take them personally, and be confident in your own skills and knowledge about how and when to challenge decisions. So families, for example, may highlight that actually they think it's best, for example, for their parent to be in a care home. And in this instance, it's not about becoming argumentative. It's about asking those open questions as to why they think that is the best decision for their parents. So it's about constructive challenging. And yeah, just listen carefully to individuals and family members' concerns seriously as well, and be open to explaining how and why you're providing care and support in the way that you are, and invite family members to suggest ways that they do it as well. So Shin, if you could move on to our next slide, please. So are you able to put that on full screen, Sheila? Just that slide? Is that possible?
Sorry?
Are you able to put that slide just on full screen for us, just so that people can have a read?
Sorry, it's blocking the contents. Please.
Okay. No, that's fine.
Yes.
So
is it visible?
Hold on a second. Yep. Can everyone read that? Is the box blocking the way at all? Yeah. Can you read that? Yes? No? Okay, hopefully it's all right. So this is a case study that I got from research. So I don't know if you guys want to have a read through, but I will read through anyway. So I thought it would be useful for us to read this case study together and reflect on it as well. So this case study is basically about there's been 25 encounters that has taken place between practitioners and a specific family over the year. So the concerns were around neglect of the 3 children. So the practitioners always undertook joint visits, and the 11 encounters observed were characterized by anger and frustration. The parents attempted to take charge by interrupting, shouting, and making accusations. The practitioners that are untruthful, they're inconsistent and hypocritical with other professionals. The practitioners, whereas at times raised their voices, argued with and talked over the parents. So after a period of involvement, things got so bad that having let the practitioners into the home, the parents would just walk out or hover around the front door. The practitioners tried to relate to the children in the home and saw them at school, but the parents soon blocked that too. So there was, from the researchers' side of things, how they've observed it was there was a lot of hate filled in the air. So after this study took place, they took a statement from one of the parents who said the below. So they said it was uncomfortable and it had got worse and worse the longer it had went on. We felt like we were being judged and nothing was done properly. They felt like they were being lied to their face and they couldn't trust anyone. They saw the practitioners coming across as very aggressive and argumentative and sometimes even very patronizing. They just felt that the social workers were trying to pull the whole family apart, and all they were doing, coming around and saying was, we're all here to help. But the parents did not seem to think that, and they think that they were trying to cause more problems and it was just stressing them out and giving more headaches. Interestingly, the practitioners, meanwhile, regarded the parents as being responsible for the lack of cooperation and saw this as further evidence of their problematic parenting. So that is just a case study in itself. So what I want to ask is, what are people's thoughts on it? What do they think the practitioners could have done to kind of mitigate this whole breakdown? Any ideas? Anything? You can put it in chat if you want to, in the chat box. I'll give you guys around 10 seconds. No, okay, so from the case study, what we can learn from that is there appears to be a lot of breakdown in communication from both the practitioners and the parent side. Okay, so I don't think the practitioners were honest and upfront about their involvement either. So they could have came and said, okay, these are the concerns that we have, because I don't think the parents are understanding what the concerns are either from their point of view. I think the practitioners themselves were very frustrated. And if you read one line of it, they were trying to raise their voice. So when you're working with clients, be very mindful of your tone and how you communicate with them. So we're all human beings, we do get frustrated, but it's taking the time out to reflect on that and put in strategies to manage that frustrations. I think there was something in the chat box. Let's have a read. Close supervision. Harish, are you willing to speak more about that? No? Okay, but just wanted to get your ideas on, sort of elaborate on that, on what you had said. But that's fine. So these are the things we need to learn from sort of other people's case studies and what, as practitioners, we should be doing in our work. So Sheena, if you could move on to the next slide. So we do have a group discussion. So we're going to try, I don't know how many people are in this group. Hold on a second while I get you all up. So we're going to try and put you all in breakout rooms, okay? So what breakout rooms are is just a mini, you'll be sent to a mini group, Okay, and just to introduce yourselves to each other, but also to discuss sort of what do you think are the challenges when trying to work with families or service users, or what are the challenges that you've kind of faced when trying to work with people, and what have you done to overcome that? So if I give you guys 30 seconds or so just to write down the question, and then we can try and put you in groups if that's possible.
We can put this information in the chat box.
Yeah. And then after that, you guys can come back and we can reflect on that together. So if we perhaps give 5-6 minutes, then you guys can come back. It will automatically take you back to the main room, and we will finish off the last couple of slides. Sheena, are you able to do it from your end?
Yeah, you want the breakout rooms now, or you want the
Yeah. Yes, if we could just do the breakout rooms now, and then we can come back and discuss if that's okay. Thank you. I think you might have to stop sharing, I think.
Please, everyone, join the other rooms. I think there are 4 rooms at the moment. It's been open. No, 5 rooms is open. So please click on the links. It will appear in your screen. Click join, then you will automatically take into the rooms. If you are still struggling with, please come back to the main room. Okay, thank you. Is everybody returned? Sorry, Ami, you are mute.
Sorry, I said I think so. If you could put back on the slides, and then we'll try and finish up. We've only got a couple more slides, and I'm wary of the time, and probably people are getting tired as well. Right, bear with me. So hopefully you guys had a lot of interesting discussions with your group. I can see Sheena smiling. Okay, and hopefully you were able to chat about the sort of challenges the potential challenges that you could face in practice when trying to work with families. So would one person be willing to sort of explain what they sort of spoke about? But if not, don't worry, we're going to move on anyway because of time. Does anyone want to maybe elaborate on what they had discussed?
From our group, it's communication is the main issue and willingness of the people's participation.
Yeah, absolutely.
When working with a multidisciplinary team, wherever you work, you will face so many challenges in order to overcome that one.
Yeah.
So basic interaction, communicating regularly, or if by home we can approach some people who is very confident, or some of them will be able to give some extra information, for us to overcome the challenges. Not always the case.
Yeah, no, that's right. I think we briefly touched on that in our session as well about communication and how people, I think Biju was explaining as well quite nicely how I think when you started off your practice, how it was quite difficult for you to understand the slang words, things like that people were using, and trying to sort of open up with them as well. So absolutely. But thank you for feeding that back. We'll move on to our next slide. So how do we engage how do we go about putting in partnership working? So it's just more bullet points really as how we go about that, but I'll try and elaborate on a few. So it's about being honest and upfront. So when we read that case study, we don't know the full story, but I don't think the practitioners were honest and upfront about their involvement and what the concerns were or why they were getting involved. They did not communicate that, I don't think, to the family. So you have to be honest and upfront when you're working with people. Mutual respect, so that's them respecting you and you respecting them as well. Clear communication, so when you do try to speak to people, avoid jargon and complex terminology, because that's just going to frighten people and they're probably not going to understand what you're saying as well. Okay. Active listening, so as we said in that video very clearly, they want to be heard. People want to be heard and their voice to be taken seriously. Remain calm, apply anti-discriminatory approach. So you do that through a non-judgmental attitude so that people can open up to you. See the individual as the expert of their own situation. Involve them as much as possible in their care and support, so that can be making decisions jointly, seeking their views and wishes. Actively reflecting, so it's about actively for you reflecting on after you did for a home visit, for example, what did you learn from it, what could have been done better. So it's about the active ongoing reflection. Implementing healthy professional boundaries, so that is by just to ensure that relationships between the social worker and the clients are professional. So some of the ways you can do this is by having a client focus, ensuring there is no sort of self-disclosure from your side. Rashina, if you could move on to our last slide. So that last slide will be about how we can use theories to be able to apply to our practice, some useful theories. Thank you. I hope you all can read that. Okay, so these are some of the main theories I would suggest that you all sort of read upon and try to use them in your practice as much as possible, even in supervision and so there's three main theories, which is very interlinked to working together with people. So there's a strength-based approach, a very common theory. So it's a collaborative approach between the worker and the service user, allowing them to work together to determine an outcome that draws on the person's strengths and assets. So, for example, these can include personal resources, abilities, skills, social network, as well as community resources. There's also the psychoanalytical theory. So that argues professionals' capacity to think clearly about and relate to the service user. So that's known as transference. Is influenced by the level of anxiety the professional experiences and what the service user projects onto them, so counter-transference. So to care about someone and be helpful requires a capacity to become emotionally attuned to their experience, why they present in the ways that they do, and to not retaliate when they become angry or upset. And then our last but final sort of common approach we use in social work is the person-centered approach. So that moves away from professionals deciding what's best for the service user and places the person at the center as an expert of their own experiences. So that's about seeking individuals' wishes and views and putting people at the center of their care. So the person who developed this theory, Carl Rogers, believed that in the right condition, an individual can reach self-actualization. So to do this, what the worker would need to do is offer unconditional positive regard. So you do that by accepting and valuing the service user. There's also congruence, so that's about honesty and transparency regarding how they view you, as well as empathic understanding. So that's about seeking the service user's viewpoint. So these theories will hopefully just be able to inform your knowledge around how you should approach work with individuals in your practice, and they're useful when you're trying to reflect on your cases and so in supervision, so you can use that as a guide as well. So yeah, that's it from me, and that's a whistle-stop tour, I think, of partnership working, and hopefully that you've taken something positive away from it. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ami. Shrina, do you want to say anything?
No, thank you.
No. Okay, so yeah, thank you very much for that. It's a wonderful session. We really enjoyed it. So first and foremost, like I would like to thank Ami for taking the time and presenting such a wonderful topic, which is key to social work practice in the UK. Not just in the UK, anywhere in the world, but it's one of the key topics when we try to connect with people, because it's predominantly when you have a lot of social work practice based on theories like a person-centered approach, things like that. It's very important how we connect with people and their surrounding social networks. And it's key that we do it in an effective way to achieve the best outcome for our clients and for the service that we represent. So thank you very much for that wonderful session. We will share that slides with participants later on. If you have got any questions, and I think we can have another 5 minutes just for the question. I know it was a long day. We had the long social working and registration process one, which was very heavy as well. And then we moved into this one. Even it's a heavy subject, like we made it very light. It looked very light, very connect with the people's feelings and emotions and things, and how we do our conduct our day-to-day activities. So if you have any question, let me know. Otherwise, thank you very much for the wonderful section, Araminta. On behalf of the resource team, the UK MSW Forum, I would like to thank you for that taking this session. And also, not least, all the participants. I know it's Saturday is always one of the busiest days in our calendar, but still, you all joined us today, and spent 2 hours. It's nearly 2 hours. It's more than 2 hours now, isn't it? Yeah, it's nearly more than 2 hours that you all been here. So I take this opportunity to thank you for your commitment, your participation, and your perseverance and patience. And I'm looking forward to welcoming you again in our next session. We will continue to have our sessions in a monthly basis, but unfortunately, because of the children's holidays next month, it's already started. We won't be having any CPD section in August, but we'll restart in September. If you have got any suggestions for any topics or anything that you would like to us to cover, please let us know. So you've got our email address as ukmsw1@gmail.com, or you can send us a message through our website. And if you are in the UK and you're eligible for membership, please join us. Student members are free, and annual membership fee is £10 only. So that will help us to deliver these kind of services and things. We will be doing a lot of activities. So if anybody who you know will be interested to be part of our service, please, ask them to join us. And last but not least, we are all volunteers. Sometimes your emails will not be responded as quickly as we thought we wanted to, and we are all working professionals. We work Monday to Fridays, so sometimes we won't get enough time to respond there and then. But rest assured, we will respond to you. And but if it's something urgent that you want us to respond, please get in touch with us, any of our mobile numbers and things. Okay, so thank you once again for this wonderful participation, wonderful sessions and things. So looking forward to welcoming you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you all who opened the videos. Thank you so much.